On this episode of Latinas, we'll chat with Sonia Manzano, the creator of Alma's Way, tell you what you need to know about breast cancer, talk COVID, meet the women behind the Mirror Trans Beauty Co-op, and so much more. Latinas starts now. Welcome to Latinas, the show that's all about nuestras mujeres in the Latinx community. I'm Tina Beth Pina. Although it's a beautiful October day, COVID-19 is still in the air. As variants continue to spread the coronavirus, and with more and more people getting tested, it's likely that you or someone you know will test positive. But what exactly do you do if you end up getting COVID-19? Correspondent Elena Romero spoke with Dr. Moreno Franco at the Mayo Clinic to find out.
There's about 1 in 10 who will need to go to the intensive care unit. And once you're in the intensive care unit, the odds of needing mechanical ventilation is going to be very high, close to 70 or 80%. Once you are in the ICU and once you're in the breathing machine, there is around a 30% chance of dying.
There is no telling how COVID will affect you. Dr. Pablo Moreno Franco of the Mayo Clinic says the key is to plan ahead.
It's important to have certain, what I would call action plans in place. Connect with their healthcare provider and understand what kind of medications are available to them to be utilized for COVID. Very, very importantly, having a pulse oximeter. It's a very important thing to do. The pulse oximeter is simply a way to measure how much oxygen is in the blood, making sure that the saturation is above 90%. That's the optimal. If the saturation starts to go below 90%, that is the time where those individuals should seek medical attention.
Plans should also include who will take care of your home and designating a healthcare proxy, a person you trust to make decisions if you are unable to do for yourself.
These are questions that most people, especially younger people, don't even think about. And unfortunately, this is what we've been seeing, particularly with this latest wave of COVID. Most of the older patients, because they got vaccinated and like that, they're not really getting the worst of it. The worst of it this time around are people in their 30s and 40s.
So when can someone who's tested positive for COVID be considered safe to be around people or go back to work?
If the individual is still having viral symptoms, muscle aches, runny nose, and fever in particular, it's better to wait another 24 hours until the symptoms resolve. What it's also important to realize is that doesn't apply to everybody, meaning if somebody gets more symptomatic, and if somebody needs to be admitted to the hospital, in general, they are considered infective up until day 20. If there are no symptoms, then we discontinue the precautions.
Once a person is out of quarantine, he or she should practice pandemic safety guidelines, including wearing a mask, washing their hands, and social distancing. Continue to monitor your health carefully and gradually return back to your everyday routines. And get vaccinated if you have not done so already. I'm Elena Romero for Latinas.
I feel like I look a year back today, and I didn't know, nor did I think that this would happen to us. Hi, my name's Nancy Solis. I am from Newburgh, New York, Orange County. I lost my father and my 2 younger sisters to COVID in May of 2020. All passed in 3 different hospitals. They all passed not knowing of each other, or that one had passed before the other. And it was very hard. And, it just happened that way. My father was a diabetic. And my two sisters were both born with Alport syndrome. One was in dialysis, and one, was high risk already because she had a kidney transplant. I worry about my mother. The three people that passed, her husband and her two babies, were the three people that she lived with. So I was afraid that something more than COVID, depression, would get to her. Loneliness, and she has now 5 living children still. So we're all within 5 minutes from my mother's house, so we're always there every day. She feeds us. That's her happiness. She cooks dinner for us, and she wants us all there, and we give it to her. That's the least we could do.
Remember Maria from Sesame Street, one of the first Latino characters on national television? She was portrayed by Sonia Manzano, who has now created a new animated series for PBS called Alma's Way. And we sat down with her to see what it's all about.
So many questions, so much to explain. Figure it out as you hop on the 6th train. Well, Mommy, Papi, Junior, and Abuelo, mi gente. I'll take it through and share it with you. Come on, let's
I'm so excited for kids to flip through PBS Kids and see Alma and say, mira, let's watch that show. And already kids, my sources tell me, kids are saying, oh, look, she looks like me. I felt when I was first on Sesame Street, I thought, oh, I wish this was around when I was little, because I was looking at Father Knows Best, wondering where I was in that scenario. And I think I was successful on that show because I never forgot myself not seeing people like me on television. So I hope that people will certainly be relieved that they're seeing people like themselves on television. And PBS asked me to create a show with a Latin family, and I made it more specific and made it a Puerto Rican family who lives in the Bronx, because that's where I'm from. I'm Puerto Rican or Nuevayorkinos, and I was raised in the Bronx. And I thought it was the perfect setting for an animated children's show. Most of the characters are based on people that I know, on my family. There's a character that I'm very proud of named Eddie Mambo, who has cerebral palsy, and he's based on my real cousin, Eddie Guagua Rivera, and this kid named Dennis who had polio when I was a kid. And he just loved to mambo. And I think that Alma is really me as a little girl, only she's a much nicer kid.
Am I good or what?
I noticed that a lot of kids are under a lot of stress in schools. They think school is memorizing. There's a lot of people in the classroom. Maybe they don't speak English. Anyway, they were turned off to the concept of thinking, even before they realized the joys of thinking. So I said, let me do a show that highlights the process of thinking so that kids know everybody has a mind and everybody can use their own mind. And it's not about information or memorization. We can all get information from the internet. It's what you do with that information.
I gotta find Abuelo's lucky sock, or else Chacho can't spend the night with me. I've gotta think about this.
It gives me an enormous sense of pride that hopefully many generations will be watching Alma's Way. I hope that their interest happens after the show is over, that they start thinking about what Alma did and was that a good choice and how they would manage being in a similar situation. We've come a long way with Latino programming and Latino stories, and I hope that this is the tip of the iceberg. I don't want to be the only one anymore.
Financial advisor Angeles Bonany is back with tips on smart saving for kids so that they too can become the jefes of their money.
Ladies, I cannot stress enough how important it is that we teach our children to save, save, save. Remember, 20% of the money coming in should be allocated to savings. You can help your children organize savings into 3 different categories. Short-term, buying a tablet, or buying that new pair of sneakers. Long-term, putting money aside for college, for example. And emergencies, like their car breaks down on the way to college. And by instilling the habit of saving, What you're really doing is giving your children the power to prioritize which activities they'd like to pursue and which activities it's okay to say, you know what, I'll pass. And here's some tips to help you save smarter. Number 1, no amount is too little. That pocket change, put it aside. Number 2, the bank is your best friend. Money in the bank is harder to spend. And number 3, set clear goals, which will help you stay focused. I hope these tips are useful. See you next month.
As part of Old Navy's Project We, the brand is partnering with 3 artists from the Latinx community to create tees that honor each artist's unique heritage. Manuela Guillen's tee is inspired by the Latinx dream and the resilience of her people. Fabiana Rodriguez's design celebrates the different Latinx experiences that together form a unique and beautiful culture. And Ruby Marquez's artwork features a traditional vase and flowers that pays respect to indigenous roots. The limited edition tees are currently available, and Old Navy is donating $1 million to Boys and Girls Clubs of America youth arts programs across the country.
For many Latinos, caring for our aging parents is held in high regard. And we're about to hear 3 Latinas discuss their experience with taking care of Mommy and Papi in today's Caliente Caliente.
It was so much to deal with, but it was more like managing 2 homes because I had my own household, my own family, but I spent so much more time in her house.
As she's aging, I'm like, Mommy, you may need a home aide to help out. Yo no quiero uno, ellos roban, right? So we made a compromise, so I put cameras in her apartment. So she's still living independently at home, and that's how she wants it, and that's great. I think as Latinos, like we really go out and care for our parents to the point where even if we go on a vacation just to get some self-care, we carry a sense of guilt with that.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. We take care of our parents. You know, that's the thing we've been innately told since we were chiquitito, like, yeah, you honor your mother and your father, you take care of them as best you can. My mom is self-sufficient.
Amen.
Her knees, yeah, thank God. Her knees may be really bad, but she still goes out to do her groceries and do her little shopping. You know, she'll carry her cane, but ella se tira, you know, and my sister and I have a twin sister. We always check in on her all the time, 24/7.
I watched how my grandmother handled my great-grandmother, where she just kind of gave the money for somebody to take care of her. And I watched my mother bring my grandmother home with her to take care of her. And then with me, you know, culturally, you know, everybody take care of you know, that's what I saw, right? It was difficult for me to not go and see about my mom. You know, and this is that when she was well, I used to call her every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. But then the beauty of the pandemic for me, and I know this is going to sound really crass, was that I'm glad my mom passed away before it happened.
For me, in the pandemic, I got super worried that it was going to affect her. You know, she's 88. Has her, you know, she's compromised because she has multiple sclerosis. Each day she would go to her senior center. They would pick her up and bring her back. So that closed out. So she wasn't doing her routine, her daily routine. And she was really sad about it. And I could see some of the cognitive issues start to come. You know, she's a little bit slower. She wasn't as mobile because when she's going from the house to the senior center, then she's mobile, she's moving. Now she's back to 2 days a week, which has been really helpful.
My mom's also 88. My brothers live out of New York, outside of New York. So it's my sister and I who are constantly there. And so we let our brothers know all the time about her, and they chat every day. Her sons call her every day. But it always falls on the daughters, no? Like it's always the daughters who really take the mantle to take care of your mommy and to make sure she gets what she likes.
Advice that I would say for a Latina who's dealing with their aging parents is be patient. They will repeat a lot of things over, like, you know, like my mom is always about busca la leche, necesito leche and everything, you know, because you have the leche for café. So just get the milk, get it beforehand. If they got 2 gallons, fine, who cares? And also if they're in a senior center, if they can get involved with kind of like a, self-care group, or just kind of a group where they can just talk about themselves and their feelings with other peers.
I would say have a close and personal relationship with the home attendant. If you do get one for your parents, if you have that good relationship, they'll let you know, like, yeah, your mom complained about this and that, but she doesn't want to let you know. Establish that confidence, because a home health attendant will give you all the inside stuff your mom may not want to tell you.
Yeah, I would say show up and be there, even when they're in the hospital, no matter what, because if you don't care, they won't care
at all. Yes.
It's very important, not just for your parent, but for yourself, right? Because if something happens and you don't know what's going on, that is on you.
Mm-hmm.
That is on you. Be available. You will be well in your soul.
Born in Havana, Cuba, Tania Leon is a highly regarded music composer and conductor who's recognized worldwide for her significant accomplishments as an educator and advisor to arts organizations. The award-winning music virtuoso is a professor emeritus at the City University of New York, and in 2021, she won a Pulitzer Prize in Music for her orchestral work, Stride. At 78 years young, there's no slowing down for Tania Leon, today's Bad Ass Latina. Imagine a world where trans Latinas can share wages equally with the goal of financial independence for themselves and zero employment discrimination. That dream is becoming a reality in Queens, New York with the Mirror Trans Beauty Co-op. Producer Diana Vargas has the story.
Persecution and violence against the LGBT communities in Latin America and Mexico are pervasive. Like many trans Latinas, Jocelyn and Leslie didn't feel safe until they reached the United States.
Yo tuve que emigrar de México porque por mi orientación sexual yo vengo de un padre racista, homofóbico. Todo eso a mí me estaba afectando. Una vez también trataron de arrastrarme en un caballo. Mi vida estaba corriendo peligro por mi orientación sexual, por cómo yo me identificaba.
Me vine aquí ya con una pareja, pronto cumplimos 25 años de casado. También me vine de México por la discriminación, pero la mía, parte de las personas que no les tomaba mucho en cuenta, era en la policía.
Since 2002, New York City human rights law has prohibited discrimination based on gender identity in housing, employment, public accommodations, credit, and education. However, almost 47% of transgender and gender non-conforming individuals said they have been fired, not hired, or denied a promotion because of their gender identity.
Llegué aquí a los Estados Unidos en el 98 y empecé a trabajar como un chico gay en un restaurante. Fui siempre discriminada, me corrían porque me identificaba como una mujer trans.
Sí, es chocante cuando te ven y voltean a ver como, oh, eres hombre. Eso es lo que me molesta a mí.
Jocelyn and Leslie decided to fight for a better future for themselves and for the transgender community, and not even a pandemic could stop them.
Hace 4 años nace un sueño eran de 5 chicas. Nació Mirror.
La idea principal de Mirror es dar empleo a la comunidad transgénero, que se empodere.
Significa fuerza, poder y sobre todo inteligencia.
Y hacer nuestro negocio que sea un lugar alegre, seguro, donde tú puedas expresar tu sexualidad o tu identidad de género fluidamente.
Tú tienes que cerrar el blush para lograr un efecto visual de que estás recogiendo ese rostro.
Yo soy instructor en belleza, pero en mi último tiempo aprendí a conocer un poco más a la comunidad trans y me pareció interesantísimo. Entonces yo estoy colaborando con ellos precisamente porque entiendo que necesitan la oportunidad de encontrar las herramientas adecuadas para ellas poder salir adelante.
Yo creo que es muy importante que en nuestra comunidad de gente gay, transgénero, haya educación para nosotros, porque así el resto de las personas nos van a respetar más.
Yo, como transgénero, estoy cansada de que me encasillen como trabajadora sexual. Yo no discrimino a mis compañeras que opten por ser trabajadoras sexuales, pero queremos dar apoyo, educación, para que tengamos otra alternativa laboral.
El COVID nos afectó a todas nosotras. Nos volvió a ser vulnerables, ya que muchas de nosotras hacemos el trabajo sexual. Yo fui una trabajadora sexual también, pero ahorita con Mirror no ejerzo el trabajo sexual.
No importa que nos discriminen, nosotros vamos a seguir adelante con nuestros objetivos porque queremos dar una visibilidad muy positiva para la sociedad.
La comunidad trans necesita oportunidades porque muchas de nosotras tenemos diferentes habilidades, ¿sí? Pero no tenemos oportunidades.
Diana Vargas for LATiNAS.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Kate. I'm a breast surgeon at Mount Sinai, and these are the things that patients need to be on the lookout if you're of Latinx heritage. Latinas need to know that breast cancer is very common, and the vast majority of patients do not have any family history of breast cancer. So when patients feel a lump or ask why should I go get a mammogram, the reason is that we don't always know what's going to cause a breast cancer. So it's really, really important to adhere to the national screening recommendations, which are to start mammo at 40 for all patients, unless of course you're at higher risk and then you would be starting earlier. I think it's really important for patients to be aware of their family history and for patients to feel that there's not stigma attached to a breast cancer diagnosis. Cancer is not shameful, so I think in some communities, patients that have had breast cancer really hide it and they say, I don't want my sister to know, I don't want my niece to know. I think it's really important that we get rid of that stigma, especially about breast cancer, and they may actually save a patient's life. And then anyone that needs a mammogram needs to go get it. There's so much delay from COVID and there's so many people that still haven't gotten breast imaging. But COVID, looks like it's here to stay for a bit. So we can't say that we're gonna delay a mammogram for 2 years. That's just not the right thing. And certainly if you've not gotten vaccinated, get a mammogram and then get the vaccine. But don't delay either because both are really important.
Have you heard about Nuevayorkinos, the digital archive created 2 years ago that celebrates Latino history in New York City? If not, get ready to, because it was created by Dominican American Djali Brown-Cepeda, and that's why she's today's Latina on the Rise.
My name is Djali, and I am the founder and curator of Nuevayorkinos, a digital archive that's dedicated to documenting and preserving New York City's Latinx history and culture through family photos and stories. And I'm also the founder of Black Then, which does the same thing, but for Black in the Day New York City, whether it be African American history or Black diasporic history. And so I said to myself, cool, there's so many different niche audiences that are being catered to out there. Where is my representation? Well, this thing doesn't exist. I might as well create it. And I wanted to do it because I didn't want someone else to think of it, especially somebody who is not a Black or brown Latina, Latinx, Latine folk, because too often the narrative has been written by white people, right? Generally speaking. Because the project is so intergenerational, I wanted to make it inclusive for all. So that is how Nuevayorkinos was born on February 14, 2019 in Santo Domingo. Initially, the reception was super positive, and it's continued to be very positive. I was actually pretty shocked by how fast it was received by people. I love when I receive videos and the photos too, because it's always painting this beautiful picture of the city and of, the larger narrative of immigration to America and the larger narrative of New York City history and how New York City's always been a haven for immigrants, whether we're talking about coming from Asia, coming from Europe. It's always been a mecca, right? Like this metropolis. And so it's just so cool. I do read every single submission, and I speak to or digitally, like I correspond with everybody basically that submits a photo. I would love to, of course, have different kinds of media documenting and representing Nuevayorkinos, so whether that be film, whether that be TV, I really do plan, of course, to marry the two as a filmmaker and as the archivist. the goal of Nuevayorkinos, of course, is like to be, again, for the people, by the people, and to give agency back to the people through this platform. But it's also important, the actual IRL, the in real life experiences of Nuevayorkinos too. You know, before COVID, I had exhibitions, I had installations, everything is interactive. I had a whole slew of events planned. And so for me, I'm very excited for, you know, this post-COVID time to come so that I can continue to do that and bring some of those IRL experiences into fruition. So I've been able to learn so much more about the city that I love and the people that I love through this project. And I don't know if I would have been able to actually learn so much about the Latinx diaspora here in New York if it wasn't for that, you know? And so I'm very grateful for this project for opening up my horizons when it comes to just engaging with and learning more about my people.
And that's our show for today. For more information on what you just saw, check out our website at tv.cuny.edu and follow our social media profiles. We love sharing our Latina stories with you. And please make sure you tune in next time where we'll talk politics, meet badass rocker El Juri, and so much more. ¡Uepa! Hasta la próxima. Bye-bye.